What's up? What's up? We back, baby. Wholesale Hardknocks, episode 31. Bro, can you believe it's episode 31 already?
I can, bro. I can believe it. You know why?
Why?
Because I knew we would make it this far. And we're gonna be 31. We're gonna 10x that to 301. Wait, what would that be? 310.
You're right. You're right. There you go. Bro, 31 episodes, 31 weeks since you pulled me out of my hole, bro. And said, yo, we need to do this. We got some gems we need to drop to the people. So yo, what we got today for the 31st episode, brother?
We're gonna go over how we analyze cash deals. So when a lead comes in the system that we're about to pump out a number to, we're gonna pump out an offer to, how we analyze that to see if it's a deal, to see if we lock it up, all the criteria, all the things that we need in order to come up with that offer number. We're gonna go over today. I have a lot of people asking me like, "Yo," well, actually, I dropped a Instagram post probably like a week ago, and it was me with another newbie investor, didn't really know how to come up with offers, and I came up with an offer like that.
Yeah.
Really off the top of my head. I was like, okay, how much, what's the ARV? What's the repairs? Oh, boom. This is where you need to be at. Because I've been doing it for so long. So I'm going to go over like how I got really good at comping cash deals. And Daryl's going to come up with some comps as well. And
how long would you say it takes you to come up with the cash offer? How to comp a cash deal?
What's the ARV?
Average ARV in Boston.
Give me ARV.
400,000.
Give me repairs.
30,000.
We need to be at like probably 290.
Shit. Well, how'd you come up with that?
Max. It's on the top of my head, like 30,000. That's very low in Boston. We don't see any renovations for 30,000.
Yeah,
but that would be like a max that a cash buyer could buy that property for, just off the top of my head.
Well, break it down. Let's give the game to the people, bro. How do we do that?
Well, before we go down that road, let's go over the criterias of what we need to come up with to get a number like that right off the bat. So let's go over this really quick. I'm going to share my screen. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is for a cash offer. And what we'll do is actually maybe next week or a couple weeks after that, we'll go over how we underwrite creative deals. Daryl is the freaking creative beast. So we'll go over like how we underwrite seller finance, sub-2 deals, all that stuff. So for a cash offer, what's the first thing in your business that you guys come up with?
Hold on, my fault, bro. You said it in my business, cash offer. What's the first thing that we come up with is the ARV.
So ARV. For anybody new to me and Daryl's channel, if you're not new, you've probably heard us talk about ARV, or you're probably in the game already, you know what ARV is. But this is the after repair value. So this is what the property is going to be worth after you put the renovations into it, what it's going to sell to an end buyer, the buyer that is a retail buyer, that's a family that's going to come in and buy the property. So we get that ARV. ARV for one. And then what else do we
need? Repair costs.
Repair costs. Okay. So this is how much you're going to have to put into the property as far as money in order to get the property up to speed to sell it at this ARV number.
Yep.
Okay. What else?
You have closing costs, you have realtor fees, you have profit for the investor, right? Wholesale fee. So profit.
So you got to figure out, what does your buyer want to make on the deal? You got to figure out wholesale fee if you're wholesaling it. Right? So the profit to the buyer, if the buyer is going to fix and flip it, what does he want to make on the back end of his project? What is your wholesale fee? What do you want to make? And then Daryl also talked about this: closing cost, realtor fees. We'll just call this in general fees / extra cost that go along with the deal. So sometimes maybe you have to do like cash for keys or something like that, depending on the deal. But this is pretty much it. Anything else that you can think of?
No, that's it. That's it. Let's dive deep in how we figure this stuff out, because I know most of the people are like, okay,
Most
now
people are like, all right, I got this down. Cool.
right,
Makes sense. When I talk to people, put it this way, right? If you're talking to sellers, make sure that you're getting this information. Make sure
yeah,
you're getting what they think the ARV is. And we'll talk about that on another episode. You could actually go back, now that I'm thinking about it, to the sales training that we did, and you'll hear why you want to get the seller's thoughts on ARV. So you want to get the seller's thoughts on repair costs, on the ARV, get the repair costs from the seller to what they think it is, and then you come up with an offer from there.
yep. So, well, let's go back. Let's go back to that, bro, real quick. So, I think it'd be pretty valuable, if we talk about not only like just what ARV is, right, but how do we find ARV, right? Yeah, we can listen to the seller, right? Like, of course, you definitely want to ask the seller what they think the property is worth, right? But how do we actually confirm these numbers, right? How do we find the ARV, Mike? What are some things that you do?
Ooh, so let's talk about, before we actually get into the weeds of like our team going in and finding the ARV ourselves. Let's talk about how we outsource finding the ARV. So what I mean by outsource is going to ask somebody else. That could be somebody else's job. Like for me, when I'm wholesaling in a different market that I'm not used to, I'll go out and I'll find my ARV from somebody else who knows that market really well. And there's two people that I typically go to find this from. I go to a realtor. And if I don't know any realtors in the area, what I'll do is I'll look at the properties that sold around that area, and I'll call a realtor that recently sold a fix and flip and say, hey, I'm a cash buyer and I'm looking to buy this property down the street from a listing that you had, 2 months ago or something like that. I'm just curious. I'm looking for some boots on the ground. I'm looking for a realtor to do a deal with down there once we buy the house. And I'm curious to see if I should buy this deal or not. Could you run comparative analysis for me, which is essentially them running an ARV. So the realtor will tell you, oh yeah, I sold that property for 400,000. Let me see if I can get an ARV for you on this one after the market shift and everything like that, or whatever. And then they're going to go in, they're going to do their comps, and they're going to come up with an ARV. So there's that. Or I go to a dispo wholesaler. I go to a verified dispo wholesaler, like somebody that I actually know is doing deals in that area. And I say, hey, what do you think the ARV is on this property? Like, what's your opinion on ARV? Plus, where do you think you would have a buyer at? And we can go into that once we come up with the actual offer. But those are the two people that I outsource ARV to.
1,000%. I do the same exact thing when because you want to have your buyer first, right? You want to find your buyer first, and a lot of times these realtors and these dispo wholesalers in these virtual markets, they not only can find the ARV, but they have buyers as well, right? So it's important to bring them to the table and show them what you got, because honestly, so like a realtor, if they bring you a buyer, a lot of times they only want 3%, 2.5, 3%, right? There's a wholesaler, they'll probably want 50%. Maybe some will take lower, or they'll add their fee on top. But regardless, you're not killing two birds with one stone, because you're getting the ARV and they'll tell you what to lock it up for. You go lock it up under that and they'll have your buyer ready. Right. But the key word that Mike said that I don't want anybody to brush over is you need to vet these buyers, right? Like, real, dispo wholesalers. They need to be credible dispo wholesalers who are actually doing deals, right? Like they can
Same
actually show
with
you
realtors.
yeah, realtors too. They have to be able to show you HUDs, show you that they actually do this.
Yes, love it. So that's if you just outsource it. If this like isn't in your market and you're just like, yo, I just need to figure out what the ARV is. I need to figure out what our buy price is or whatever. Just outsource it to a realtor or a dispo wholesaler. But when we do these things in house and we're trying to come up with an offer in house like right away, we use a couple different platforms. Let's talk about the platform before we talk about what we need to know. So for our team, we use Zillow. What do you guys use, Daryl?
For free, or what do we pay for? We use Zillow. We use
Okay.
Zillow. We use Privy as well.
So they use Privy. And essentially these platforms are like platforms that have data. They have sold data,
Yeah.
properties that have sold recently and are also for sale. We also use this. I have, if it's in Massachusetts, I have MLS access.
Yeah.
So we can go right into the MLS and it'll show you real data of properties being sold. So that's the software that we use. But now what do you need to know? There's a couple different things from the property that like the actual property itself that you need to know to find out all the comparable properties that are around
Yeah.
that.
So what you want is you want to I see people talking about in the chat comps, right? You want comps, comparables. You want to compare apples to apples, right? You want the house that you're looking for. You're looking for houses that were totally renovated, sold recently,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that are very, very similar to your property, right? So you want same year built, right? Very similar year, but within 5 years of the years built. Um, very similar square footage, right? Same bedroom and bathroom count, right? Lot size matters. Um, all of that matters because you want them to be like very similar, right? You can't compare a duplex to a single family home, right?
So
Like
let's do this, right? Let's do all these out. So the square footage, this is how much living space is in the property.
yeah,
You want to be somewhere between like that 200 mark, right? So if the property that we're looking at is 1,000 square feet, you're going to want to be somewhere between 800 and 1,200 square feet. Okay.
exactly.
And then you said another couple things.
I also said the year built.
Year built.
Year built is super important. Why? Because every certain amount of years, and Mike could talk about this because he's a fix and flipper, right? And he knows, right? But every 10, 15 years, the style of builds change, right? So like everything within these 5 year periods, a lot of them are very similar built, right? They were built by the same builders, they were used by the same materials, right? There was the same things going on at the time in the market, right? So a lot of things that were built in the same or similar years are built the same way, right? So it's easier to compare 1950 property with a 1950 property. Now, if you have a property that was built in 1950 and a property that was built in 2010, those aren't comps. Two
Right.
completely different. Everything was done.
Two different types of houses.
Yeah.
So this is very easy to do in markets like Florida and stuff where there's like those cul-de-sacs, like the neighborhoods that all have the same houses. It was like a builder that bought a piece of land and put like 100 houses in the same cul-de-sac, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's super easy to get these types of comps. But somewhere in Massachusetts, it's harder because properties weren't built like that. There are obviously neighborhoods where they were all built by the same builders, but a lot of the times these properties were built way back when, like 100, 200 years ago. And the builders weren't building like that. You know what I mean? So when that happens, you just got to kind of bear with it and get the best comps possible. But to Dow's point, you want to be somewhere in that like 5 year mark. 5 year mark, if you get in that 5 year mark, like plus or minus, then you have a solid comp no matter where you're at.
Yep.
Year built. So we have square footage, year built. What else are we looking at?
We got square footage, year built.
You mentioned this, right? Like same type of house. You
Same
said
type of house, yeah. Like stories, right? Like single story,
yes.
2 stories, right? Like it needs to be. You cannot compare a single story house to a 2 story, 3 story house, right?
Mhm.
Like apples to apples. When we say apples to apples, we mean apples to apples. Like the house needs to look very, very similar to the other property for you to use it as a comparable.
This could be a ranch versus like a colonial.
I guess it would help, right? Show like just showing like the idea, right? The reason why when you're looking for a comp, right? You're looking for the property that you're literally shooting for this, right? So if there's a property that was recently renovated in your area, it was just sold same month, right? And it's a fix and flip, totally renovated, 2022 standards, right? You're going to look to do very similar designs. You're going to look to sell it at around the same price, right? You're going to make it look very similar, and you can't do that if it's a completely different property, right? It
Mhm.
just doesn't make sense. So
Exactly.
you're selling this, you're selling pretty much the end picture to your buyer, right? So you're saying, hey, I have this ugly house. You can make it to look like this beautiful house, and you can sell it for this much and make this much, right?
Exactly.
But if it doesn't look like that, then you just can't do it.
So it's like a car, right? If somebody brings a beat down car to you or a truck or something, you're gonna want to know, hey, is it a car or is it a truck? Is it an SUV? Is it a sedan? Like, what is it? How many wheels does it got? Does this thing got
Exactly.
18 wheels or does it only got four? You know what I'm saying? What year was it built? Is this a brand new 2023 Mercedes or is this thing like a 2000 Mercedes?
Exactly.
Makes a big difference. So
Exactly.
that's what we're looking at when we're looking at the criteria. So when we go in the maps, and you guys will see, we're going to actually literally do this right now. We're going to come up with an ARV on a property. So you'll see us go into the maps and look at these houses that are similar square feet, similar year built, similar type of house. So type of house is like some people, this might be going over some people's heads, like, what do you mean what type of house? Well, first off, it has to be, if it's a single family, you have to compare it to another single family. So it can't be like a 3 unit compared to a single family. That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
But when it comes to single family, right, there's and multifamilies too, there's different types of these houses. So there's like a ranch, like you guys see and up here in Mass, there's a lot of ranches, right, in the city that I'm in, where it's just a slab and then it's just a 1 story house. And then there's some colonials that are big houses that have 2 different stories and a bunch of different windows and stuff like that. They're 2 styles. So this is a style. This is what Daryl was talking about. So boom. Anything else that you want to add to the criteria to figure this out?
Uh, no, no, that's pretty much it.
Oh, we missed one.
What's that?
You want to be within 0.5
Oh
miles.
yeah, the big one, the biggest one,
Yeah. You want to be actually close to the
the
property,
most important one. Yeah.
right down the street from the property. That's essentially what you want. And going back to this, like if you can get in the same neighborhood from the same exact builder, you're freaking golden. That's a really, really good comp. Oh, we're missing all these shits, bro.
What else we miss?
Within 90 days.
Can you tell that we outsource?
Exactly. But it's important to like, here's the thing, right? Like I used to do all this. So I'm going to go into like how I got really good at comping, how I got really good at underwriting cash deals so I can do it just like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I used to do all of it until I realized, hey, I can just outsource this. I don't like, there's no need for me to wreck my brain on figuring out all this stuff. It takes too long. Right. So I don't do it anymore. I just outsource it to somebody else. But I think it's important that people understand the basics. That way, when they're going out talking to sellers, they understand and like they can talk about this stuff to the sellers and they can understand the value of a house.
Super important, bro. We can't explain to a seller why our offer is what it is if we don't understand why it is what it is. You
Great.
know,
Yeah.
like let me we gotta get serious real quick. Like
Hmm.
I just explained this analogy the other day. Right. Say you go to Wendy's, right?
Hmm.
We maybe talked about it on here before. say you go to Wendy's, right? And you go to the person at the cash register and you ask for a chocolate frosty.
Okay.
Right? That person there is just like, no.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. No, you can't have one. You're gonna be like, well, what the
Bro.
why not? What the hell? What do you mean? Right? Now, if that person says, hey Mike, sorry, can't get you the chocolate frosty today because we're out of chocolate. I have a vanilla one though. You're gonna be like, okay, I understand. You may consider the vanilla frosty, right?
Mm.
Same thing with if you're telling somebody why you're offering, you can't. If somebody's saying they want $300,000 for their house, right? Somebody they're just looking. You got to think they're just looking in Zillow. They're putting their address in Zillow. Zillow's saying 300,000, so they want 300,000, right? And you just come to them and you're like, I can give you 150. They're gonna be like, well, what the freak? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Right. And if you can't explain this to them and show them why our number is what it is and get them to your side of the table and get them to understand, because you don't understand the numbers yourself, then you
Mm-hmm.
need to figure something out. You need to understand these numbers. So this is super important.
Super, super important. Some people might be like, yo, this is freaking boring. I like when Mike and Daryll talk about mindset and all these things, but this is very, very important.
Yeah, without a doubt. Back to the regular scheduled program.
So why don't we comp a house?
Let's do it. You got one for us?
Yeah, bro. Let me go on the files.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna show y'all a legitimate lead that we have in our system.
Damn. Can y'all tell he's a freaking closer? Are you gonna show the address?
Yeah, dog.
They
I don't care about that.
don't care. He don't care about y'all trying to call the lead because he's a dog.
Let me find one.
So, Mike, when do you comp these deals? Like in your business, which is why you're doing that. When is the right time to comp these deals?
So for us, we have an internal thing in our CRM that is actually really, really good at comping. So it automatically pops up a number. So our sales team knows where the ARV is at
Shit.
just from the CRM. But once we get into our offer, so here's what happens in my sales process, right? We have 8 steps. And once we get to step 6, we're essentially setting the expectations for the offer that's coming. So once the acquisition manager is done with step number 6 and they need an offer, that's when they come to me for the offer number. And then I go in and I verify and I run my comp and I'm like, okay, cool, here. However, like just to have a rough estimate idea of, hey, is this going to be a deal for us? Are we even close? That number pops up in the CRM automatically.
That's pretty dope.
It's fire, bro. It was a game
Fancy.
It's really good. Like I go in and I test it all the time. I run my own comps against their comps, and it's on point, bro. It's crazy.
That's dope, bro. That's dope.
Oh yeah.
Word. So you got the property pulled up?
Yeah, I want to do. How about y'all? What is y'all's?
So what we do is we'll comp it. We have a system set up where we have lead managers and we have closers. So lead managers, they'll call it, they'll put like an idea of what the house is worth, but as the cold caller or as the closer is getting closer to actually presenting an offer and this person's like actually motivated, then they'll submit all the information needed that we just went through, right? Like square footage, the year build, the everything. They'll submit it to a form. We'll underwrite it. My underwriting team underwrites it, and then we get them an offer. We get them the MAO. We get them the comps. We get them everything, right? And then they go out and present that offer.
Love that. Yeah, we actually have an MAO calculator too. Now that I think about it, so the ARV pops up in our CRM, and then we have an MAO calculator that they pump in the ARV and they pump in the repair costs and everything too.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty dope. And that MAO calculator actually has like built-in repair costs. So we have the repair cost based on like a 1 to 10 sliding scale, and we'll put that number, that like pretty much the number that they give us, or that we think from what the condition is after having the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Put that number in the MAO calculator and it'll pop up. It'll automatically do it, which is pretty dope. But anyway, people are like, yo, just get to it. So
let's get to it, bro. Comp the damn.
You can see my screen, right?
It's not. Yeah, I can see it.
Here is 20 Dunbar Street, Worcester, Massachusetts, a lead that was generated, I don't know, probably a few weeks ago or something like that. So here's what I always do. I always just bring up the Zillow listing and I get this information. This information is also in my CRM as well. But remember, me and Daryl was saying, hey, you need to know the bed bath count. You need to know the square footage. You need to know the year built. So you can get all that right here. Bed bath count right here. This is a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,125 square feet. Let's see when this thing was built. Built in 1957. Okay. So now that we have that information, I go over here and I type in Zillow sold. Okay. And I remember, I'm looking for things in the neighborhood. So up here, I pump in the address. Boom. Now, once you click off of this, remember, this is the same thing that we just looked at. Once you click off of this, it brings you to the map. So let's look. This is Dunbar Street right here. So our property is right on the street. So we want to stay within the same vicinity, like a half-mile radius of this vicinity. But what do we have to do? We got to make sure. What do we say? Sold in the last, 90 days? So we got to
start with 90 days.
Yeah.
I start with 30. If there's anything 30, I'm going to use those first.
100%. So we start with 30. Okay. What do we say the year built was? 1957. So let's, like I told you guys, here in Massachusetts, let's leave the year built out for now, just because it's Mass. It's a little bit different over here. But square feet, we were at 1125, I believe. So let's go here. Let's go 750 to let's call it 1,500. Remember, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for somewhere between that 200 mark, right? But we're just trying to get as many properties in there as possible. And also, we want to get these multis out of here in townhouses because we're dealing with a single family.
Yep.
So let's look back, right? Let's look back to this. What type of house is this?
Little shitter. Cute little house.
We call this a Cape style house. So that's what we call the style of the house. So we're looking for the same style of house.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, this guy's like, yo.
What you looking at, bro? Just taking a picture of homes.
So let's go back here. We zoom out a little bit. Remember, Dunbar Street's right here. We want to stay a half-mile radius in between here. The last 30 days looks like there wasn't too much activity. There's one all the way out here, but that's pretty far away. So I'm not going to use it.
Yeah. Just
yet. Now let's go back out 30 days. So this is what you got to do. You just got to work with this. Work with the best you got. So what do we got here? 1471 square feet. It's a little bit bigger than ours. Has another bedroom. Has another bath. Okay, or has a full bath. But this one just sold recently. Let's see when it was built. Built within 7 years, not bad, especially for Mass. Does this one have a garage? This is another thing we're looking at, garages. Did ours have a garage? No. So that jumps this ARV. If a property has a garage, the ARV goes up about 10K. And then you also got to look.
How do you determine that, bro? If say say the property the comp that you are looking at, right? Say
Mhm.
it has like a garage or an extra bedroom, or it, I don't know, it there's no other comps in the area, and it is outside of that 5 year mark, right? And you need to make like a deduction or something like that. Like, how do you calculate those deductions?
I'll calculate like 10 to 20K depending on what's going on. So let's just say it's like 2 bedrooms more. I'm counting 10K for each bedroom. Okay. Same thing with a garage. If there's a garage, I'm plus or minusing 10K. So 10K is kind of like where I'm comfortable at.
Okay.
But this isn't really the best comp because it's a different style house, but we
Yeah.
might have to work with it because it doesn't look like there's too many. So remember, this thing's a little bit over square footage, has another bedroom than we have, has a whole half bath, right? So we're not going to be as high as that. So let's go back out here. Remember, that one was right here. Same thing, not the same style house, but let's see when it was built. Built older. Okay, this one's much older. But look at this. This thing was sold back in September. And as you guys know, the market has shifted. So isn't that interesting? Literally right down the street. Boom. This one's bigger and it's newer and it has more beds. And just what was it? A month or two difference. There's already a price reduction. So what are you saying here, Dow? Like, what's your next move after what we just looked at?
Honestly, if there's no comps, did you go back in time yet?
We can go back in time. Another thing that I was just going to mention is a lot of people would look at this comp, which honestly, it's the square footage and the type of house is there. However, you cross a main road.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to do that. This is a whole nother hood. This could be freaking Compton. This could be downtown Boston. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how much a main road can screw up a deal.
Yo, for real. One thing that is super important as well, if you can't tell that it's a main road from the maps, I tell my team go to Street View. Street View is like get a picture of the house, right? If they allow you to drive to see what it looks like in front of the house on the street, drive around, like let's do it. Today, actually AJ on my team, Augustin, right here, he brought a property. He's like, yo, we got to get this under contract. It's a great seller finance deal. Whatever, right? I'm like, all right, cool. So we're looking at the Airbnb numbers. He's like, this would be a great Airbnb. We could keep it. So I was actually considering keeping it, right? Looked at it a little closer, jumped onto the Street View, right? And we seen that it's on a major road, right? It's on a major road, a 4-lane road, right? And there's no driveway, right? So the people have to get into the house you have to make a turn earlier, like halfway down the block, and then take another left into this sketchy ass alleyway, drive another block down this alleyway, and then park in the back, and then walk to the front door, or just walk through the back.
So you're looking at your end buyer, right? You're looking at like the family that's going to live in there. Who the hell is going to want to do all that?
Exactly.
You know
Exactly. I mean? Well, originally I was thinking about me, right? If I make this an Airbnb, like you're right, my consumer, right? My tenants, my guests, right? Exactly. I'm thinking about them. Like, who's gonna want to look for their damn Airbnb when they get there, right? Like, you can't find it. Like,
exactly. And you're a buyer, right? You're a buyer with that type of mindset, and it's important for wholesaling to keep that in mind that your buyer is going to have that mindset as well. Like, I'm in a flip right now, and we had to freaking blow out the roof because the roof was like blocking the stairs to come upstairs, right? So you were going to come upstairs and it was going to be, and that's where the bedrooms are. And it was going to be a pain in the ass to get your bed and your freaking dresser and all that stuff. Plus you'd end up hitting your head on the freaking roof as you go downstairs to go to the bathroom at night. Like we just knew that it was going to be a headache. It was an extra $8,000 that we weren't planning on as far as the renovation, but we realized that we just had to do it because we're thinking about the end buyer, right? And that's how a buyer thinks.
Yo, it's so important, bro. So important, especially if you're gonna wholesale this. And that's why it's important, like we were saying earlier, right? Have your buyers first. Call your buyers first, and then lock it up, and then negotiate. Right.
100%. So here's what we can do for this. I think my next move would be to come back another 3 months just to see if we can get anything like right in this little neck of the woods here. But it's looking like this is our closest comp that we can go by so far.
So what do you mean go back and go back? Oh, like okay.
So go
12.
back, go back a little bit further. Let's see if we can find a Cape style house. Here's what I also do. I'll take a property like this, and I realize that it's not in the best condition, and it might have been a cash buyer who bought this. Not too sure, but I'll put this into prop stream, and I'll see if it was a cash buyer that bought this property. I don't think it was though, but that's one thing that I would do.
So what happens if? So we had a good question here, Bruno. Right? If it's a situation like this, and you lack comps, right, and you're looking to wholesale it, he said, "What's your exit on this?" I know what I would do.
Well, like right now, if
you find no comps at all, like you keep digging, you go back months, and there's just no comps to support anything.
I'm going back to the first two things that we talked about, either realtor or dispo wholesaler.
Okay.
Like that's what I would rely on.
Yeah.
Or the buyer.
I agree. For the exit, right, and for the acquisitions, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get an option contract, right? If I can't support these comps,
that's really good. Yeah,
we do this all the time, bro. Like if I can't support the comps, if I can't comp it, I tell my team, bro, this is exactly how I say it too. I'm like, yo, I cannot figure this out. Get an option. Just go get an option, right? And we have an option, we at least have a chance, right? Like, and then we could at least go back to the seller and say, hey, because let me explain what an option is. If you don't know what an option agreement is, it's pretty much upfront wholesaling, right? You're telling your seller, hey, I'm not a buyer for this property. This wouldn't work for me. It's just not enough activity in this area for me personally, right? But I do know people who buy in this area. I have a couple friends who they're real buyers in this area, and if I bring this to them, they'll tell me what they can pay for it. Right now, here's the thing: in order for me to be able to market this to them and show them that this is a property that you want to sell on your behalf, I need this paperwork in place between us. Just because I'm not a real estate agent, it's illegal for me to do that. Right. So, sign here, and here. I'll go ahead and see what these guys will pay. See if they can pay what you want. Right now, let's just say they want $50,000 for the house. Right. Let's just say my buyer comes back at, I don't know, $30,000. Should I tell them to just kick rocks or what? Right. What's the lowest you would take?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they just drop. Right. Well, I'll take 40,000.
It's some sauce.
Yep.
This is some sauce. Love it.
So when in doubt, option contract.
100%. So for this one, right, this is a little bit tricky. This is a main road right here. But it's essentially like this little neighborhood over here is off this main road, just like this one is. You see what I'm saying? So I would actually take something around here for a comp. It's super close. It's like right down the street. So there's two of them that I see. I don't want to go with this one anymore. I like this one because it's the same kind of style house. Same thing with this. Okay. So what I would do here when I have two of these comps that I'm looking at that are similar, they're not really like too close, but they're fairly close, but I gotta rock with them. I'm gonna take the price per square foot that these both sold at, and you can scroll down here on Zillow and find that out. Scroll down here, price per square foot. Remember this, $331. So this thing sold for $331 per square foot. So per square foot, which is square foot is up here, it was $331 that this thing sold for. So I'm going to take that $331 And I'm also going to take this one because this is another close comp. Also, look, this looks like a fresh flip. So you might find your buyer to see who the fix and flipper was. That could be your buyer on this one, right? But I'm also going to go down here and look, this one was 257 square feet. So I'm going to take the average of both of those. What's the average of that?
What are the numbers?
It is 331 plus 257. And I'm going to divide that by 2. And that brings us to 394. Let's round it off to 300. So 300 per square foot is what I'm going to do, right? And then I'm going to take our property, which is 1125 square feet. 1125. And I'm going to times that by 300. And that brings you to a 337.5 ARV. I think I would be comfortable with that.
Dope. I love it. Let me before we wrap it up, I want to show what I do on Privy to comp, and to see exactly, like, this will help what I use Privy for as well, to see what buyers are buying for in the area overall, right? So Privy has a lot of tools on there. They have actual MLS data, and they show you what these fix and flips were bought for before they were flipped, right? So it'll show you if you see 3 houses were bought at 50% of ARV, right?
Mm-hmm.
You now know you need to get that property at 40%, 45% ARV. You need to get it under 50% ARV so you can sell, right? So I use Privy to do that, and I'll show here. We have a comp that I just pulled up that we just got out here in Glendale. Right. So what I do is I go to comparables. You have your map pull up here. Let me make this. What did I just do? All right. So you go to comparables. You have your map pulled up here. Right. So the first thing that I do when I get this map pulled up is I draw a line, right? Because I don't want to see none of these. I don't want to see none of this because they're cross streets. These are major roads. This is a freaking river, whatever this is, right? So I want to stay everything in this little zone right here, right? So I'm gonna get my pen and I'm gonna just draw. And that's gonna give me these, right? So this is all I'm looking at right now, right? Now slide down here, we go to all activity, and these are more, right? So I have a bunch of properties in here. It's a lot of activity, right? 29 properties sold. So first thing I want to do is I want to see the most recent, right? So I'll click sold right here and I'll filter them from the most recent. So you see 1025, 1021, 1020. These are 3 comps that have just recently sold in the area, right? Next thing I'm gonna look at is what'd you say?
Love it.
Yep. The next thing I'm gonna look at is the year built, right? So you see these 2 are the same year built, same month. So I'm gonna look at these ones first. This one's 0.1 mile away, it's 0.29 miles away. Same square foot. These are a little bigger square feet. Would you use these, Mike? Or no? Would you deduct a little bit from that?
I'm seeing some ones down there.
Yeah.
That are close. When did they sell? I mean, that's not too bad. So here's the thing, right? Like, you want to be in that 90-day mark. But if you're not, you can always factor in like a 5% change for the market shift.
Yep. Perfect.
So I would rather go with those ones that are closer, and then that are closer to because it's closer to the year built too.
And I'll show you another thing that I do that makes it easier for me, right? Like, I don't like looking at these active ones because they're active. We don't want to use those. So I'll delete those out of here. And then also I'll filter year built, right? So 2017, I'm gonna get that out of there. All right. 1980, I'm gonna get that out of there as well. I'll keep the 1978. Yeah, this is pretty tough. Then I'll filter from bottom. So 1971 is the lowest year built. So that's cool. We can keep that. Square foot, I can filter it. So these are 2,300. Would you mark these 2,300s out?
I think I would, bro. I think I would, because what's ours? 19.
1940.
I think we have closer comps. That's why I would do it. That's why I would pick it up.
Yep. So, and then same with this 1360. I'll take these out as well. All right. You want to get as close as possible to your subject property. So I'll probably like 700, 1700.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave these 1696. Right. So now we have 13 properties. Right. This is a lot easier to look at. And then we zoom in. Right. And then next thing you can do is filter from price. Right. Highest price. So you see this sold for 500,000, but this sold in April. Right. So I wouldn't use that. The most recent sold in September for 440. And where's that one at? Right here. And shoot, this looks very similar to our property, right? So what I'll do is I'll click on this and let's see, you can see if this is a fix and flip. So you'll click view on external listing. And it takes you to the page and it doesn't look like it was a fix and flip.
We're not seeing the page, bro.
Oh, you're not? Damn. Hold on. Can you see now?
Yeah.
So when you click that view external listing, it takes you straight to here. And this wasn't fix and flipped, right? This sold for 440 in September. Right. So it's in good condition, but this isn't like a total renovation. Right. They also have a pool. I don't know if we have a pool or not, which is a big difference, especially out here.
So somebody might be like, Daryl, how the hell do you know if it was a fix and flip or not?
Great question. Right. So the way we look at that is you'll look at the renovations, right? You can tell if something is fixed and flipped. Like these are HGTV standards, houses that you wouldn't touch a thing, right? These are granite countertops, new cabinets, right? Stainless steel appliances, new roof, everything is perfect, right? You wouldn't touch anything to these properties. That's how I usually look at it.
Love it.
So yeah, we have a few right here. So let me see. I think are you still looking at what page? So there's no real fix and flips going on in this area that I've seen so far. Like this one sold for 468 in August. Let's see. Let's see the highest ones. This sold for 500,000. Let's see if this was fixed. Now this looks pretty clean. But this doesn't even look like it's a fix and flip. This looks like somebody was living in this and it was just nicely renovated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I would use this as a higher.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like an absolute fix and flip, like somebody literally just fix and flipped it. It could be somebody that just took really good care of the property.
Exactly. So you see this one sold for 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now on Privy, what you can do now, the reason why I was trying to find a fix and flip, because on Privy you can look at the before and after, right? So you'll see here, right? They bought it for 300,000, or they bought it for 200,000, and they sold it for 500,000, right? But they bought this in 2015. So usually on a fix and flip, they'll show like if you'll see if they bought it like 6 months ago or less than a year ago, right? And then they sold it for a profit. You can see at what percentage of ARV they bought it for.
Yeah, so obviously this was a family that lived in the property.
Exactly. So like let's
but
find
to your point, bro. If it is a fix and flip that somebody just sold, you can go find out what they bought it at, and then run back your numbers. Like, hey, what percentage of ARV did they buy this property at? And that's what you should probably lock your deal up at.
And that's why I'm trying to show it on here, because it actually does that for you. Privy does that for you, which is really cool. But I think I may need to reset it and see what properties were fixed and flipped. Let me see. If we could find one.
So as we're getting the ARVs, right? Let's call that ARV that we got $335,000 after value. Which I actually think if we went back and dug it a little bit more, I think we can get probably maybe 350 for it.
Yeah.
So let's call it 335 for the sake of example. Okay. I'm going to show you guys exactly what we would pay for this property. So did you end up finding one?
No.
All right. So here's what we would do in order to get this, right? So this is a fix and flip calculator that I have that I will run my numbers in if I'm looking to buy the property or even looking to just come up with a good offer number, because I know my fix and flip numbers, I am like conservative with my fix and flips. If I'm buying a fix and flip, I know that it's going to be a good deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being known, it's going to be a good deal for somebody else, minus our wholesale fee. So that's how I would come up with that number. But just to give you an idea, you'll see all the things that we talked about over here. ARV you put up here, $335,000. Holding time cost, this is important because you're going to see a little bit later. Purchase to the seller. I'm going to leave this as it sits for a second. Okay. Renovation. Daryl, in your business, how do you guys come up with the reno?
Honestly, we do it off of the square footage. We do quick rental costs based off the square footage and based off of like the overall condition that the seller tells us, right? So they tell us that it ends up being an average condition and it's 1,200 square foot house, right? I may estimate like $50,000-$60,000 off of it. We even use like a template that tells us average repairs, little repairs, or major repairs, and to give us a number based off the square footage, right? Because in reality, the seller's going to tell you something over the phone, and when you go look at it, it's going to be something completely different story.
100%. So the best way to go about it, if you're just wholesaling the deal and you're not looking to do the renovation, is to just do a square footage type of thing. I know Jerry Norton has a really, really good square footage thing that he does. So what Daryl's saying is, hey, for every square foot, I'm going to give you a rehab cost, like the average rehab cost. If it's a light repair, which means just cosmetic. If it's medium, which means like cosmetic plus, kitchens and baths, or heavy, which means like full gut. And then there'll be a bunch of different categories and a bunch of different repair numbers that come up. And then you plug that into this number. But for me, right, if I'm going to buy a house, I've done deals, I've done renovations. I know what my repairs are just from being in the game. But there's two things, right? When I was starting out, I had a fix and flip like mentor type of guy, and I would bring him on all my appointments, and he would tell me, hey, this is what the electricity costs, and this is what the roof costs, and this is what that costs. And then I started getting it in my mind of what these repairs were, and it just got plugged in my mind. So I would say, Daryl says this all the time, go to your buyer and figure out like how they come up with their repair costs. Then you'll start to understand of what these repairs are. That's for one. If you're newly fix and flipping, because there's some people on my channel that they don't want to wholesale, they just want to fix and flip, and they're just getting into the fix and flip game, I would say start out by literally getting quotes from contractors. Like literally get quotes from contractors, like electricians, plumbers, GCs. Do that. Go to Home Depot. Look at what the vanity costs. Look at what the cabinets cost and all that stuff. Like go in the trenches and understand your market and what repairs are in your market.
Bro, if you want to be real, anytime you go on an appointment, you should have a contractor with you anyways.
100%.
If you're not a contractor and you're a flipper and you plan on hiring a contractor, you should take a contractor with you on every single one of your appointments. If they want $50, give them $50 to do it, right? Because you're learning as well. Tell them, what are you looking at? What are you looking for, right? Figure out, pick their brain while they're there, right? Because that's going to help you get to how Mike is. Like, when Mike's like, oh, Mike can look at a property and be like, oh, it's going to need 40K in repairs. Easy. Right.
Mhm.
I can't do that shit yet. Like, and that's because I've done one fix and flip and it was virtual. Right. So I really didn't do anything at all. You know what I'm saying? I just ran my mouth. Like, that's all I did. So I definitely I take contractors when I do go on appointments. The rare times I go on appointments, I have contractors meet me there. Most of the times I just send a contractor and he just gives me a number, right? So
This guy is the ultimate outsourcer.
ultimate outsourcer, bro.
So as far as reno goes, let's just say on this particular deal, you sent out a contractor or whatever, you came up with the $40,000, or you used some sort of square footage type of calculator, and you came up with the renovations being a light type of cosmetic renovation of $40,000. Okay. So a couple of things that we got to factor in. Closing costs. What is this thing going to cost to actually close a deal? 3%. This should be, this should not be 1,000. This should be 3,000. Right. So you're factoring in all these things. These are the extra fees. Going back to the beginning of the episode, we went through all the things, all the criteria that you need to analyze these deals. These are the little extra things that nobody talks about. You don't see this stuff when HGTV has the fix and flip shows. They just show what they sold the property for and what they put in for renovation and then what they bought it for. Right. There's only 3 numbers, but there's a ton of other numbers that come up here. So,
bro, it's the reason why I laugh, bro, is because you know my story about my first fix and flip, right?
yeah.
You don't remember my first fix and flip. We penciled out supposed to be a triple digit flip. Actually, it was a triple digit flip on paper. It was a triple digit flip, but after we paid all holding costs and paid our lenders back and paid closing costs and realtor fees, guess what the net profit was, bro?
40,000.
It was a triple digit flip, but it was the triple digits were $356.
Y'all thought it was going to be $100,000.
What do you say?
Y'all thought that the profit was going to be $100,000 plus?
Yes, bro. We thought the profit was going to be around like 60K, and it was originally, but we had to bring on more lenders, and then we had an extra holding cost that we didn't account for, and it was just a lot, bro. And I was just grateful that our lenders got paid back. You know what I'm saying? And we still profited, right? We profited and we learned a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? So super grateful for that. But
they went out and had Chipotle after that. After they got that $300.
Oh yeah, 356, bro. It's eating good. you can't like bro, like I don't think you understand the feeling of we going 6 months of constant negotiating, going back and forth and fighting with lenders and contractors. Profit 356, bro.
Yeah, I can imagine, bro. I can imagine.
But the cool thing is I wholesaled the deal to myself. So I actually made money from the jump.
There you go. That's a whole topic for another whole
facts.
Like genius. But let's just say this thing, the reno was 40K. Obviously, you got to factor in the 40K. Okay. And then maybe there's some maintenance, you got to do the pool. You got to do some landscape or something while you're holding the property. Now we get into the fun stuff, what Daryll was just talking about, paying his lenders. So I'm not going to get so deep into the weeds of this, but look at all these fees that come along with borrowing money. This holding cost right here is from borrowing the money from a hard money lender. All your cash buyers, every single freaking one of them are buying properties with hard money lenders. None of them are buying it with their own cash. Every single one of them. Every cash buyer is the same. Nobody wants to use their own cash unless they're like freaking, I don't know, they got all the buku bucks. And even those people are smart enough not to use their own cash when they're fixing and flipping. So people borrow money. What comes along with borrowing money is interest rates and points. And then you got to factor in all the other things that come in, the PITI, properties, the taxes, the insurance, the utilities, and all that type of stuff. While you're actually holding the property, there's costs. Like right now, I'm in a fix and flip, and we have a stop work order because the freaking knucklehead contractor never ended up pulling the permit correctly. He thought that it was all pulled. There was just a miscommunication between the contractor, my business partner, and the city, and we hashed it out. It's all good. It was only like a week, but that week cost me money. Like every single day, I'm paying like $150 in holding costs. So that cost me a week of $150. Boom, 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 with no work. Right. So you got to factor that in. So while you're holding the property, not only are you paying for the renovation, but you're also paying for your hard money costs and utilities and insurance and shit like that. Then once the property is finished, you have to sell the property. Okay. And that process takes about 30 to 60 days to sell it. As you're waiting that 30 to 60 days, obviously you have holding costs as well, but you also have selling costs. What does that mean? That means you have to pay a realtor to go put it on the market and bring a buyer in, right? So for here, we have 2.5% to the buyer's agent, 3% to the listing agent. That's typically what happens out here, and then so that gets cut right off the ARV. Plus, the 3% gets cut off for closing costs. That is the attorney's fees, the fees that the attorney's going to get for transferring the deed. And then concessions. Concessions are another thing. Concessions are a buyer coming in and a buyer saying, hey, I need the this, that, and the other done. Like the floor needs to be better or something like that. It's just extra money that you got to put in. Just BS that the buyers bitch about. Okay. This thing is not right. Oh, that's because I had this at 33,000. So now you got to figure out, right? Like for me, what I would do is I would, if I'm fixing and flipping, I buy properties for a different reason than other people buy properties. Some people buy properties to hold on long term. They just want to put their cash in and hold on to it for 10 years for appreciation and get some cash flow. For me, I just want to make sure that this deal is not going to give me a freaking headache and I'm going to make a decent amount of money over time and it's not going to be a headache for me. Right? That's what I'm looking at. So I look at just the profit. Hey, is this profit going to make sense for me or would I rather just wholesale it? That's me. That's my buying criteria. There's no like percentage of ARV for me. There's no ROI for me. There's nothing like that. There is in a full-fledged fix and flip business, right? That's what people do. People will do like ROIs and they'll do, hey, we're only buying if it's this percentage of ARV and they're very, very strict on it. I'm not that strict because my business is mainly wholesale. I'm out of 5 contracts, I only buy one of them. Right. So I'm just staying in a project at a time to keep my guys busy and keep a project going at all times. Right. But for most people that are fixing and flipping, they have a full-fledged business and they have operations. They're like, hey, no, we're not buying unless it's this ROI. So you got to go talk to your buyer and figure that out. Yep. But for me, if I'm buying this, I'm just making this number work, right? So let's look at this. We have a 335 ARV. This project's going to take us about 4 months. Let's start seeing where we have to be at. Let's look at 200,000. So this is the contract price. This is what you're going to purchase it for. 200,000. Boom. That brings an estimated profit of 44 grand for this deal. If I'm looking at this deal, I might buy this at 200,000. Like 44 for me, depending on the deal and how much it's going to take. This might be my MAO. This is why I just pumped in that number because I already had it in my head. 200,000 for me is probably what I would be. And I don't really have like a solid explanation for that because my buying criteria is different than your full-time, full-out fix and flipper that's all they're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that goes to, again, what we've been saying, find your buyers first.
Talk to your buyer.
Everybody's buy is different, and talk to your buyer. Like you said, figure out why they're doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. What what's going on in the market? What are you doing differently? How are you going to be buying properties here on out? Like talk to me, right? And you have to look at it as a partnership, right? Like you're your buyer's partner. You're bringing them deals, right? So you got to know what they want. You got to know what their order is, and if their order changes, then you got to figure out what that order is so you can go get it. So
100%. So yeah, this is what I'm looking at. You got to look at all these things. If you're buying a house, you got to factor all these things in. It's so much easier if you're just wholesaling to just go talk to the buyer and figure out where they need to be at and how they buy houses, and then use their formula, and then subtract your assignment fee to come up with the contract price that you got to get it under. But just to give you guys an idea of how I'm looking at a property and all the numbers that I'm looking at and everything like that, this is what we are looking at. What are they having, a pool party out there, bro?
yeah, I don't know what's going on out there, bro.
So, anything you think that we should go over? God is dope. That's a dope shirt, bro.
Thanks, bro. I think we tackled a lot today, bro. We showed you how to find the ARV, how to find comps, how to do repair costs, how to take deductions. Like we showed you how to find a deal, right? Which is the most important part of real estate, right? Of wholesaling, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're finding deals and we're selling deals to buyers, right? So you need to be able to understand, find a deal, and be able to underwrite a deal and determine what is a deal, what is not a deal, so you can present it to your buyers and not look like a bozo, right? Because the one thing that you don't want is to be the person that keeps sending the cash buyers shit deals every single day, right? Every single time it's a bad deal. Because next thing you know, they're going to stop responding to you. And now you're going to lose a buyer.
100%. And here's why it's important to go, like, I have a feeling some people are like, dang, dude, that's kind of a lot. Like, all I need is just an offer number. Like, I'd rather just go talk to the buyer, right? And have them bring me a number, which makes so much sense, which that's what you should do. I think, though, seeing all these numbers and stuff and seeing why that buyer is telling you the offer that they're telling you is important, because when you go have that conversation with the buyer, now you understand how to talk to them. You understand how to have the conversation. You understand when they're talking about closing costs and holding costs and everything like that. You understand where that verbiage is coming from, and you can relay the message with them.
Yep.
Same thing with your seller.
1,000%. 1,000%. You got to realize we are the middlemen, and we have to service the sellers and we have to service our buyers at a high level, right? Because buyers, especially, right? Because your buyers are going to be your repeat customers. Buyers you're going to continue to sell deals to. Sellers going to be one at a time, right? Buyers, that's going to be same person. You can survive and eat really, really good with 3 to 4 buyers in your market, right?
100%. And if you're able to relay this message on the topic of sellers, if you're like on a seller appointment, I've done this before. I've been on a seller appointment and I've literally brought out my iPad and brought out my whiteboard and jotted down all these numbers that I'm factoring in when I'm trying to buy the house, my holding costs and selling with the realtor and everything like that. I'm going over that with the seller on the whiteboard, and they're like, oh, this makes so much sense. I understand why your offer is the offer that it is. Okay, yeah, let's do the deal. So that's why it's super helpful to really, truly understand this. It's not a necessity, but it's going to bring your game up 10x.
I would honestly say it's a necessity to understand the numbers.
Yeah.
This is a numbers game overall. We got to understand the numbers. Like if you cannot, yes, you can. You're right. It's not a necessity if you don't want to be great.
Not a necessity to get a deal done, but it is a necessity to survive.
Exactly.
If you want to survive in this game, know your freaking numbers. But you can get lucky. You can go out to a cash buyer and be like, hey, where would you buy this deal at? And he says 200,000 and your seller said 180. And you make a quick 20 grand. Like that can happen. And that's an easy way to get a deal done for sure, especially when you're first starting out. But if you want to survive, know your freaking numbers.
Yes, sir. Yo, what else you got for the peeps, bro?
Man, we're good. Y'all have a good freaking Thanksgiving.
Have a happy Turkey Day, man. Make sure y'all, if y'all have not already, followed me and Mike on Instagram. Here's our grams. His is over there. Mine's right here. Make sure y'all are liking, subscribing to the channels. Make sure y'all hit that little bell in the corner and get these notifications every time we go live, because we're going to be dropping game every single week, every single Wednesday. We moved the time up a little bit this week. Next week, we're going to be on the same time, 5 o'clock AZ time, and we're just here to drop value. So, yo, I appreciate everybody. Wholesale Hardknocks, we out.